everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. You know, in the dead of winter, many of you are inside because it's snowing outside or the weather's just not cooperating to get out and about. But you know, in the state of Georgia, we have a really mild climate. And with that comes the ability to celebrate all kinds of vegetables and flowers this time of year that you might not have some other places. So we're going to do that today on the show. We're going to celebrate vegetables and some of great recipes that you can enjoy this time of year. You know, we've celebrated Southern ingredients all season. Pecans, peaches, molasses, smoked sausage, bacon, all kinds of things. But you know, winter vegetables are so delicious. And maybe there's some of them that you've never tried before, and hopefully we'll encourage you to do that today. So we're gonna do 3 great recipes. We're gonna start with Southern style collard greens. Many of you know how to make these better than anybody, but hopefully if you've never done it, I'm gonna show you how to do that today. We're gonna do roasted winter vegetables with 4 different varieties. And then finally, have you ever combined chocolate and carrots? Well, I've got a great recipe for you. So let's get in the kitchen and get started on those collard greens. All right, we're ready to do these Southern style collard greens. And you know, as a child, I would not have touched this vegetable. Even the smell of it cooking didn't appeal to me in the least. But now it's one of my absolute favorites. I love it when it's left over to make a soup out of it. It's just a great side dish, and it lasts in the freezer. Once you make a big pot of it, you can put it in little Ziploc bags and pull it out just when you need something to go with country fried steak. All right, so collards are a member of the cabbage and broccoli family. And our neighbors over in South Carolina, this is their state vegetable. And in my travels recently, going back and forth to Beaufort, South Carolina, the fields with these collard greens in it, they were not even affected by the cold weather that we've had recently. It's just a beautiful vegetable. And you know, you think you've got all these collard greens that you're gonna cook, and it ends up being not that much at all. So don't be surprised that you have to buy quite a bit just to get enough to serve 6 or 8 people. All right, so we had a little bit we had to do in advance. We started with our chicken stock in my big stock pot. Then I added in ham hocks, which honestly, that meat I absolutely love. Chopped up onions and garlic. And I've let that cook for about 2 to 2.5 hours. And what I'm looking for is for these ham hocks to literally, the meat to just fall completely off the bone. And that's really where we are right now. So you see that, you know, that meat is cooked down and all of that wonderful smoked ham flavor is now in my broth. So part of what makes this vegetable unique is that you really have to cook the seasonings into it. So that's why cooking the broth for 2 hours. Now we're gonna add in cider vinegar, apple cider vinegar, sugar, because you know this vegetable, you want to have a little bit of sweetness to it. We've got kosher salt, black pepper, and crushed red pepper. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to get this good and combined before I start adding in my collards. So you have a little bit of preparation to do there as well. As you can see from this big bunch, you've got a really thick stem that goes through the middle. And that can cook down and be tender, but it's not quite as sweet as the leaves are. So you want to cut that stem out and then lay your leaves flat and cut them into strips. So we've done that, and like I said, I want you to notice that I've got 2 gigantic bowls of collards here, and we're just gonna start adding this in. And you'll have to go a little bit at a time because it's gonna fill your stock pot all the way to the top, but after a few minutes, that'll start to settle down a little bit. Those will get soft and you'll be able to add more. So you know, collards have a lot of great nutritional value. They are antioxidants. They're really considered a superfood. You can buy them all year, even if they're not in the store when they're fresh. You can take a bag of already prepared collards and season them with this recipe that I'm giving you today, and they will also be delicious. You know, this has great benefits for digestion, and it's just, you know, I think to start the year with trying to incorporate more vegetables and fruits into your diet is a great way to go. All right, so we are going to continue to add these in and get these cooking, and it'll take, again, a little bit of time for this to work, and we're going to get started next on roasted winter vegetables, which honestly would be great with this on the plate as well. So come back with us in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, and if you're just joining me, we're doing winter vegetables today. You know, when it's cold outside, there's nothing like a great winter vegetable, whether you've got it in soup, whether you're cooking it to go with maybe a steak you're going to put on the grill. But we have already gotten the collard greens going. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about the state of South Carolina's official state vegetable, the collard green. And as I said, you know, as a kid, I didn't really like that vegetable very much. And honestly, the smell didn't appeal to me either. But the smell in this kitchen right now is so wonderful. And also smelling those ham hocks. You know, you can do this recipe without the ham hocks as well. There's a lot of flavor in the other ingredients that we added. So if you are a vegetarian, please try that, you know, without the ham hocks. All right, so we are going to do roasted winter vegetables. And I chose 4 today to use for this dish, and there is obviously very colorful here on the tray. So let's start with the parsnip. Now this is a vegetable that I did not grow up eating. That is something that was not generally on the table when I was a little girl growing up, but I've learned a lot about this vegetable. It looks a lot like a carrot. It's white. You're gonna peel it just like you would a carrot, and it has a nutty flavor, which for me is just a flavor in food that I absolutely love. You know, I am a peanut fan. So to have something that's kind of a nutty flavor, I think goes really well as a vegetable. You know, there's many other things about it. It has a lot of antioxidants. It has a little bit of a sweet taste to it as well. So sometimes when you're doing vegetables and you would think of a carrot, maybe use a parsnip instead for just a little bit of a change and a different color presentation. All right, the next vegetable we've got is a butternut squash. Now this is another vegetable that I really didn't grow up eating. I would see it in the store. It looked like a gourd. You know, it just was very unusual. But you know, the thing I've learned about it is once you've learned how to cut it and you go through those steps to get it prepared to cook with, it is so delicious. So let me give you a tip, and my good friend Virginia Willis is the one that actually taught me this technique of cutting a butternut squash. She's been with us several times on the show, but she said you need to cut it in half because you need a flat surface to peel that butternut squash. That outside skin is so tough. So I cut it in half, laid it flat, and then you take a very sharp paring knife to get that peeling off. So again, when you're doing something like this, make sure that you take a moment and get those knives sharpened. You know, if you get started on something like that, you're liable to hurt yourself. So be sure you have a sharp knife when you're doing that. This is also has a lot of fiber. It's just a great dish. If you have any left over, again, it's wonderful mashed, just like you do mashed potatoes. It's great in a soup as another side dish, so good. All right, the next vegetable is a sweet potato, and this is one of my all-time favorites. I've been eating sweet potatoes my entire life. I learned that the more butter and sugar and cinnamon you put in it, the better it was, but we're talking about healthy today. So that is a way that I grew up eating it, but a sweet potato is also very easy to peel. You can cut it into bite-sized pieces, and again, for the roasted vegetables today, most of these vegetables are gonna shrink when they roast. So you don't want to cut them too small because they will shrink a little bit. You want to have a nice appearance for presentation standpoint. So the sweet potatoes make a wonderful addition to that because they're a little bit of a different color. And then finally, carrots. So carrots are going to be another vegetable that's easy to peel. We're going to put those on, and they're going to also have great nutritional value to this. So what we're going to do now that we've gotten everything cut up, bite-sized pieces, I'm just going to sprinkle this with some olive oil. We're going to use our ground kosher salt and some pepper. And you know, this to me is one of the ways that maybe you can get your children involved in preparation, but also in the understanding that it doesn't have to be in a casserole dish with all the other things that go with it. So, you know, just get in there with your hands and toss this together. I've preheated my oven to 425 degrees, and these are gonna cook for about 25 to 35 minutes. All right, so when we come back from the break, teacher's pet today is carrots. We're gonna do another recipe with those, so come back with me shortly. Vera's Corner is brought to you by TaxSlayer. You know, I love houseplants in my home, but you know, in the wintertime, it's hard to keep them alive. So today I'm gonna give you a few tips on how to make sure your houseplants make it through the winter months. Maximizing hours of light is critical when keeping plants healthy in the winter. Move plants closer to windows if possible. Even better is moving plants to a southern or western facing window because these will provide the longest hours of sunlight when the days get shorter. Wash dust off plants so leaves can make maximum use of available light. Be sure not to overwater. Many plants go dormant in the winter and hate wet soil. Let soil dry out completely before watering. Pick up the pot. If it feels light, you're safe to water. Once watered, do not let plants sit in water that is drained from the pot. Otherwise, your plant could get root rot, which is essentially a death sentence. Stop fertilizing in the winter. This can throw off the plant's natural rhythms, so hold off until spring. Finally, keep plants away from direct heat sources or cold drafts. Follow these rules and your plants should live to see another spring. Start free today at TaxSlayer.com. Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed Vera's Corner today. You know, my pothos always has a special place in the kitchen, and we laugh about the fact that we can't keep plants alive in here. So we're actually celebrating a couple of birthdays with that plant. So I hope you'll take advantage of some of those tips. All right, so carrots today are the teacher's pet. We had them in the last segment with our roasted winter vegetables, and now we're gonna do a dark chocolate balsamic glaze for these carrots. This is such a good recipe. It's actually in my new cookbook, the VeryVera cookbook Occasions, and the balsamic carrots are part of that. It's just a great recipe, something really different and unusual. So let's kind of go over what we've done. I went ahead and got my carrots rinsed and peeled, and I love to buy the little ones that have the little stems at the top because it's just so attractive from a presentation standpoint. And we got those laid out on the pan. I kind of coated them with a little bit of olive oil and salt, and then I put some fresh thyme on the top of all of those so that flavor will go through when you're roasting those. So those are completely ready to go. And when you're doing this at home, while you're roasting those carrots, you can make your reduction sauce that goes on top of these. So what I've done here is I've taken my balsamic vinegar, I've let it cook now for several minutes, and it's reduced down by half. So now I'm gonna turn off the heat, and with my induction cooktop, I don't even have to remove it from the top of the cooktop because the heat is immediately turned off. All right, so the other ingredients that go in this are Hershey's Special Dark Chocolate, and I've just cut that into some little pieces. And then, you know, my good friends over in South Carolina at R&R Acres, this is some of their delicious honey. It's so thick and tasty. We really had a great time filming with them last season. All right, and then finally a little bit of kosher salt. So let's just mix this together and get that chocolate included. I know you're probably thinking, Vera, what in the world are you doing putting chocolate on carrots? I cannot wait for you to try this recipe. And you know, we always love the comments. The recipes are always available on our website at VeryVera.com. But you know, we want you to make these dishes. We've actually also gotten our fan club back up and running with the new cookbook. So as you make these new recipes, when the book comes out, we want you to take pictures and become part of our VeryVera Cookbook fan club. All right, so carrots in general are just, again, a great vegetable. So many things about it that will make it good. My grandmother used to always say, if you eat your carrots, it'll make your eyes pretty. So maybe that's why I have blue eyes today, I don't know. But I really loved them growing up. They were a great snack. And we've joked in the office a lot about that we've gotten our children to eat vegetables because they dip everything in ranch dressing. So I don't know whether ranch dressing was invented to help children eat vegetables, but that's also, you know, one way to get children to eat your vegetables. Okay, so with carrots, there's so many ways to cook them. You can steam them, you can roast them, you can boil them, all kinds of things. But I want to introduce some different seasonings to carrots that make this unique. You can put cinnamon, nutmeg, cayenne pepper, thyme, basil, oregano, sage, ginger, parsley, salt, pepper, and cumin. So many different ways to make carrots taste differently. And you know, this is going to cook down and cool down, and we're going to pour this over it. So when we come back from the break, we're going to put everything that we've made today out. We'll talk a little bit more about the benefits of great winter vegetables. So come back with us in just a few minutes and I'll keep on working. Welcome back, everybody, and we have had the best time today. I hope you have, celebrating winter vegetables. And in this part of the country, we are so fortunate to be able to have access to these when they're in season this time of year. We've done some recipes today that I hope that you'll investigate and learn a little bit more about and enjoy with your family. And they're always available on our website at VeryVera.com. All right, so let's walk back through what we did today. We started with the southern collard greens, and these just, as I said, remember that gigantic bunch of collards that we have? You know, they cook down to where I've got a really nice bowl full. And you know, I also mentioned the ham hocks. I'm the person that's going to go through the buffet, and I'm going to make sure I get several pieces of that on my plate because I just love that great ham flavor. But again, you can make these with other parts of the pork. You can do bacon, you could do just some of the different seasonings and everything to go with that. So just keep in mind that you can alter some of my recipes to make them your own. All right, so collards also have a lot of other components that maybe you've not thought about before. In our catering business now, almost 40 years, in our next cookbook, the VeryVera Cookbook Occasions, I speak a lot to that part of my business. Actually, the beginning of the book talks about that it all started with polishing the silver. Well, if I'm going to pass something at a cocktail party that is either acidic or has sulfur in it, like a tomato or a deviled egg, you want to make sure that you protect that silver tray because it will literally eat the silver off of it. So we use collard leaves quite a bit to decorate our platters that we use during our catering events. So keep that in mind as another great tip. We've also done that here with the winter vegetables. That was the second recipe that we did, where we peeled and cut the different vegetables, just roasted them with olive oil and salt and pepper in the oven. But I made a little dip to go with this, and here again, just speaking to how you can make a side dish into an appetizer. So we've cut these into bite-sized pieces. The Beau Monde dip is sour cream, mayonnaise, dill, and Beau Monde seasoning. You might have to look that up. That dip is fantastic. So I hope you'll try that just with some toothpicks. That would be a really nice appetizer. And then finally, the balsamic carrots. So they cooked up really well. The balsamic chocolate glaze that goes on these is just delicious. And this is going to be something really different. I cannot wait to hear your comments on how chocolate and carrots go together. But you know, there's other vegetables that you can use this with too. We cooked some Brussels sprouts, roasted those in the oven. So here we've got a plate with all our favorite fried chicken. We've got the carrots, We've got the roasted winter vegetables and the collard greens, just with fried chicken or a slice of ham or a fried pork chop. We did that recently. That would really, really be good. All right, so let's speak to the cookbook for just a minute. The balsamic carrot recipe, as I told you, is in the book. I want to talk about the format this time. We used one new person. Peter Frank Edwards was our photographer last time. He's done this book again. It is absolutely beautiful. The photography, to me, really sells the book. I hope you'll think the recipes are good too. But we added a new person this time. Kat McCall is a local illustrator here in Augusta. She did all of our chapter covers, all of the renderings on the recipes that are so beautiful. And you know, certainly I want you to learn more about her. Her work is so beautiful and seen in many, many different places. So, as I always say on the Very Vera show, no matter what you do it in good taste. You can't beat the taste of these winter vegetables. I hope you'll try these recipes, and I hope you'll come back and join me again next week.